When the Harper family first saw the house, it felt like a dream finally coming true. After years of cramped apartments and noisy neighbors, Daniel and Lisa Harper wanted something better for their son, Ethan. Space, quiet, a place where he could grow up safely. And there it was, a massive 2-story colonial house standing at the end of a quiet cul-de-sac, surrounded by tall maple trees and a perfectly trimmed lawn. Sunlight poured through its enormous windows, and the white porch wrapped around the front like something straight out of a movie. It was beautiful. Too beautiful for the price. Their realtor hesitated when Daniel asked why the property had been on the market for so long. After a pause, she admitted there had been an incident years earlier. The previous owners, the Whitmores, had lived there for nearly a decade. One winter night, neighbors reported hearing shouting and breaking glass. Police arrived to find the house empty, furniture overturned, lights on, dinner still warm on the table. The entire family had vanished. No signs of struggle. No forced entry. No bodies. No explanation. The case went cold within months, and the house sat empty ever since. Locals whispered about lights turning on late at night, about shadows moving behind windows, about a child seen standing on the second-floor balcony long after the home was abandoned. But Daniel dismissed it as small-town superstition. Lisa convinced herself every old house had rumors attached. And Ethan was simply excited to finally have his own room. So they bought it. The first weeks were perfect. Quiet mornings. Peaceful dinners. The feeling of finally being home. Until the small things began. Doors they were sure they'd closed stood open. Footsteps echoed upstairs when no one was there. Ethan started talking about his new friend who only came out at night. And some nights, just before sleep, Lisa thought she could hear someone whispering from the hallway. Lisa first saw the woman on a Tuesday afternoon. Daniel was still at work, and Ethan was upstairs doing homework, or at least pretending to. The house was unusually quiet, wrapped in that heavy, unnatural silence Lisa had begun to notice more and more lately. Even the neighborhood seemed muted, as if sound itself avoided their street. She was rinsing dishes at the kitchen sink when something made her look up. At first, she thought someone had left something in the yard, maybe a delivery box or a piece of patio furniture the previous owners had forgotten. But as her eyes focused, her breath caught in her throat. An old woman was sitting in the middle of their front lawn. Not standing. Sitting. On a simple wooden chair. Facing the house. Facing her. The woman looked impossibly old, her thin grey hair hanging loose around a narrow face, her skin pale and creased like paper. She wore a faded nightgown, the kind Lisa remembered seeing in old photographs. Her hands rested calmly on her lap, and her eyes, dark and unblinking, were fixed directly on Lisa through the kitchen window. For a few seconds, Lisa couldn't move. Her brain struggled to understand what she was seeing. How long has she been there? No car. No footsteps. No gate opening. Just there. Watching. A sharp chill ran down Lisa's spine. Instinct kicked in. She dropped the dish into the sink and rushed toward the front door, her heart pounding. "Hello," she shouted as she yanked the door open. Are you okay? Can I help you?" She hurried down the porch steps, eyes locked on the spot where the chair and woman had been. But the lawn was empty. No woman. No chair. Nothing. Just the wind gently moving through the grass. Lisa stopped halfway across the yard, her pulse roaring in her ears. She spun around, scanning the street. No one walking away. No cars starting. No open gates. No neighbors outside. There was nowhere the woman could have gone in the few seconds it took Lisa to reach the door. Her stomach twisted. A sudden feeling crawled up her back, the unmistakable sensation of being watched. Lisa slowly looked up at the house. At Ethan's bedroom window on the second floor. For a split second, she thought she saw movement behind the glass. A pale shape shifting away from the window. Lisa ran back inside, heart hammering, taking the stairs 2 at a time. Ethan was sitting at his desk, coloring, completely calm. "Mom, what's wrong?" Lisa scanned the room. Closet closed. Window locked. No one hiding. "Was someone here?" she asked, her voice shaky. "Did anyone come into your room?" Ethan frowned, confused. No. Then, after a pause, he added quietly, "But the old lady was looking for you." Lisa felt the blood drain from her face. "What old lady?" Ethan shrugged, like it was obvious. "The one who sits outside at night." A cold silence filled the room. Lisa tried to talk to Ethan about the old woman that same night. After dinner, after Daniel fell asleep on the couch, after the house settled into its usual uneasy silence, she sat on the edge of Ethan's bed while he played with his action figures. "Sweetheart," she asked gently, "remember what you told me earlier? About the old lady?" Ethan didn't even look up. "What old lady?" Lisa felt a knot tighten in her stomach. "The one you said was looking for me. The one who sits outside at night." Now Ethan frowned, confused, as if Lisa had asked something strange. "Mom, nobody sits outside. You said she did. Today. In your room." He stared at her, eyes wide with genuine confusion. "I didn't say that." Lisa tried again the next morning. And again the following evening. Each time, Ethan reacted the same way, puzzled, slightly annoyed, like she was insisting on a joke he didn't understand. And then, 2 days later, it was as if the entire conversation had vanished from his memory. "Mom, are you okay?" Ethan asked when she brought it up again. "You keep talking about some old lady. Did you dream it?" The way he looked at her, concerned, almost worried, made Lisa's skin crawl. Because she knew what she saw. And she knew what he'd said. After that, she stopped asking. But she started watching. At first, it was small things. Ethan lingering in rooms alone, whispering while playing. Pausing, as if listening to someone she couldn't hear. Once, Lisa walked past his bedroom and heard him giggling softly. When she peeked inside, he was sitting cross-legged on the floor, nodding like someone had just told him something funny. "Who are you talking to?" she asked. Ethan jumped and looked at her, startled. No one. But Lisa was certain she'd heard 2 voices. A few nights later, she woke up around 2 in the morning and noticed Ethan's bedroom door was open. His bed was empty. Panic shot through her as she searched the hallway. A thin line of light spilled from the bathroom under the door. She approached quietly. At first, she thought the sound was the faucet running. Then she realized someone was whispering. Ethan's voice. Soft. Urgent. Like he was answering questions. Lisa pressed her ear to the door. "I can't," he whispered. "Mom gets scared." A pause. Then, quieter. "But I like talking to you." Lisa's heart pounded so loudly she was afraid he'd hear it. Slowly, she pushed the door open. The bathroom light flickered overhead. Ethan sat on the closed toilet lid, facing the empty bathtub, speaking into the corner as if someone stood there. "Ethan," she said. He jerked around, startled. "Mom!" The bathroom was empty. No shadows. No movement. No one hiding behind the shower curtain. "Who were you talking to?" Lisa asked, her voice barely steady. Ethan blinked, confused again. "No one. I was just thinking." Lisa took his hand, noticing how cold his fingers felt. As she led him back to bed, a single thought kept repeating in her mind. He wasn't imagining someone. Someone was talking to him. And whatever it was, it didn't like her knowing. By the end of the week, Lisa was certain of one thing. She was losing her mind. Lack of sleep, the stress of moving, Ethan's strange behavior, it all had to be catching up with her. That's what she kept telling herself. Houses creak. Children imagine things. Adults mishear sounds. Everything had an explanation. It had to. That night, exhaustion finally dragged her into a deep sleep until a sound pulled her back out of it. Footsteps. Slow, dragging footsteps outside the bedroom door. At first, she thought it was Daniel getting water, but when she reached beside her, his side of the bed was still occupied. He was snoring softly, fast asleep. The footsteps continued. Not one person. Several. Shuffling. Uneven. Slow. Like people walking with difficulty. Lisa lay still, every nerve on edge, trying to convince herself it was the house settling. Pipes. Wind. Anything. But then she heard something else. Quiet breathing. Right outside the door. Her mouth went dry. Someone was in the hallway. Her heart pounded so hard it hurt. Every instinct screamed at her to stay in bed, to wake Daniel, to pretend nothing was happening. Instead, moving almost against her own will, Lisa slowly slid out of bed. Each step toward the door felt heavier than the last. The footsteps continued, passing slowly by. She reached the handle, hesitated, then yanked the door open. And her mind broke trying to understand what she was seeing. The hallway was full of people. Old people. Dozens of them. Men and women, impossibly aged, their bodies bent and twisted, skin sagging, faces pale and hollow. Some shuffled with crooked legs, others dragged their feet as if they no longer had strength to lift them. Their clothes looked ancient, stained nightgowns, torn robes, old suits from another era. And their faces. God. Their faces looked wrong. Mouths hanging open. Eyes cloudy or completely black. Skin stretched thin across sharp bones. Some of them had bruised-looking marks around their necks, others dark stains across their clothes like old, dried blood. A nauseating smell filled the hallway, rot mixed with hospital disinfectant. Lisa froze. They kept walking. Not toward her. Past her. As if she didn't exist. One by one, they shuffled down the hallway and began descending the staircase. None of them looked at her. None reacted to her. They simply moved forward in a silent procession, step by slow step, down into the darkness below. Lisa couldn't breathe. Couldn't scream. Couldn't move. Her body refused to obey. Time stretched, thick and unreal. Then suddenly, as if waking from paralysis, control rushed back into her limbs. Her survival instinct kicked in. Ethan. The thought slammed into her. Lisa ran. Past the last figure disappearing down the stairs. Down the hallway. Toward the staircase. She almost slipped rushing down the steps, her heart hammering violently. "Hello," she gasped. "Who's there?" She reached the bottom and flicked on the lights. The living room flooded with brightness. The house stood empty. Silent. Still. No figures. No footsteps. No open doors. Nothing. The front door was still locked. Windows closed. No sign anyone had ever been there. Lisa spun around, checking every corner, every room. Kitchen. Dining room. Study. Empty. Completely empty. Only the ticking clock on the wall answered her. Her legs gave out, and she gripped the stair railing, trembling. Slowly, dread crawled up her spine. Because she knew what she saw. And the realization was worse than ghosts. They hadn't come into the house. They had been leaving it. A week later, Lisa found herself alone in the house. Daniel had left that morning for a 3-day business trip, and Ethan was spending the night at his friend Mason's house. Lisa had almost cancelled the sleepover, but Ethan had begged to go, and part of her thought the quiet might help her calm down. Maybe everything would feel normal again if she just had one peaceful evening. By 11:30, she was in the kitchen, preparing breakfast for the next morning, pancake batter in the fridge, coffee machine ready, lunchboxes half-packed. A small attempt to make life feel controlled again. A sitcom played quietly on her tablet propped against the counter. Fake laughter, bright lights, people arguing about ridiculous problems. Anything to drown out the silence of the house. She told herself she was fine. Just tired. Just stressed. Nothing more. Then she heard it. The front door opening. A slow, heavy creak. Lisa froze, a kitchen knife still in her hand as she chopped fruit. Her brain scrambled for logic. Daniel wasn't home. Ethan wasn't home. No one else had a key. For a moment she wondered if she imagined it, until the unmistakable sound of the door closing echoed through the hallway. Someone was inside. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears. Call the police. Hide. Run. Instead, driven by fear and adrenaline, Lisa gripped the knife and slowly moved toward the hallway. Every step felt unreal, like walking through water. The TV laughter continued behind her, absurd and distant. She rounded the corner toward the entrance. And stopped. An old man stood just inside the open doorway. He looked ancient, skin hanging loose, back bent, thin white hair clinging to his scalp. He wore what looked like dirty pajamas and a torn overcoat, his bare feet gray with grime. He didn't move. He didn't speak. He just stared at her. His eyes were wide and glassy, fixed on her with an intensity that made her stomach twist. Lisa swallowed, her voice barely working. "Get out of my house." The old man didn't blink, didn't breathe, didn't move. Then, slowly, something changed. His shoulders twitched. His head tilted slightly to one side. And without breaking eye contact, he began lowering himself to the floor. First his knees, then his hands, until he stood on all fours, still staring at her. Lisa's mind refused to understand what she was seeing. And then, he barked. A loud, hoarse, animal sound tore from his throat. Not a human imitation. A real, violent bark. Lisa flinched, nearly dropping the knife. The old man lunged forward, snarling, barking again, his movements jerky and frantic. He hopped and twisted like a dog straining against a leash, claws scraping across the wooden floor. But he didn't move forward. His body jerked violently, yet he remained right at the doorway, as if something invisible held him back. He clawed at the air, teeth snapping, saliva flying from his mouth. He spun in circles, slammed against the frame, barked again, louder, wilder, furious. But he could not enter. Lisa realized with a sickening certainty. He couldn't cross the threshold. Something outside the house held him there, like a chained animal desperate to reach prey. Her prey. The old man's eyes never left her. They were full of rage, hunger, and something worse, recognition. Lisa stumbled backward, her legs shaking uncontrollably. She wanted to scream, to run, but fear glued her feet to the floor. The creature, because it no longer looked like a man, continued thrashing, barking, snapping at nothing, fighting against whatever bound him outside. Seconds stretched into minutes. Lisa later realized it must have lasted 5 minutes. It felt like hours. Then, just as suddenly as it began, silence. The barking stopped. The doorway stood empty. The old man was gone. No footsteps. No door closing. Nothing. Only cold night air drifting in through the open entrance. Lisa stood there, unable to move, her entire body trembling. And somewhere deep inside, a horrifying thought formed. Whatever haunted the house wasn't trying to get in. It was trying to get her out. Lisa didn't sleep that night. She sat on the kitchen floor until sunrise, lights on in every room, the front door locked, the knife still clutched in her hand long after her fingers had gone numb. Every creak of the house made her flinch. Every shadow looked like movement. She kept replaying the scene in her mind. The old man's eyes. The barking. The way he couldn't enter. By morning, she had made her decision. They were leaving. No arguments. No delays. She didn't care about the mortgage, the money, or explanations. Nothing mattered more than getting her family out of that house. Daniel returned home just after 8, Ethan half asleep in the backseat, still in yesterday's clothes from the sleepover. Lisa barely waited for them to step inside. "We're moving," she said immediately, her voice hoarse. "Pack whatever you need. We're leaving today." Daniel closed the door slowly, watching her with an expression she couldn't read. "Lisa," he said quietly. She shook her head, already grabbing Ethan's backpack. "No. I'm serious. I saw something last night. Someone. They keep coming into the house. Ethan talks to them. There are people in the hallway at night. Daniel, Anne." Her voice cracked. The old man, he was at the door. He was trying to get in. "We're not safe here." Silence filled the hallway. Ethan looked from his mother to his father, confused. Daniel sighed. Not annoyed. Not angry. Just tired. And then Lisa noticed the way he was looking at her. With pity. Deep, painful pity. Her stomach dropped. "Lisa," he said gently, stepping closer, "I've been worried about you for a while." The words hit her like cold water. "What?" "You haven't been sleeping. You keep seeing things. Hearing things. You talk about people that aren't there." Her heart began racing. "No. You don't understand. You weren't here." Daniel rubbed his forehead. Ethan tells me you wake him up in the middle of the night asking about strangers in his room. You wander the house checking doors. Last week, you swore someone was sitting in our yard, and there was nobody there. Lisa felt the room tilt. That's not I saw her. Daniel's voice softened even more. And last night, Lisa, the security cameras didn't show anyone coming into the house. A cold wave washed through her body. Cameras? He continued quietly. I called Dr. Hansen 2 days ago. Told him everything that's been happening. He thinks, maybe the stress, the move, maybe it triggered something. Lisa stared at him, horror slowly spreading through her chest. You called a doctor? Daniel hesitated, then nodded. Anne. I also called for help this morning. A sudden movement outside caught Lisa's attention. Through the front window, she saw a white van pull into the driveway. 2 people stepped out. Uniforms. Medics. Her breath caught. Daniel reached for her hands. Lisa, they're just going to help you rest. Somewhere calm. Away from the house. Just for a little while. The knife slipped from her fingers and clattered to the floor. No, she whispered. Daniel, please. You have to believe me. Tears blurred her vision. Behind Daniel, Ethan watched silently, holding his backpack. And for a brief moment, just a second, Lisa saw it. At the top of the staircase, an old woman stood in the shadows, thin hands folded calmly, watching. The same one from the lawn. Her dark eyes fixed on Lisa. And slowly, she smiled. Lisa tried to speak, tried to point. But Daniel turned, following her gaze. The staircase was empty. When he looked back at her, his expression only grew more heartbroken. The doorbell rang. A firm knock followed. Lisa's last clear thought before the medics entered the house was sudden and terrifying. What if the house didn't want her to leave? And what if it finally convinced everyone she was the problem?